Mahomes back, throws. It is incomplete, picked off by the Lions. Brian Branch with it left side. He's gone, baby. He's going to the house. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Deflected in the air, Branch ran under it, and he took it all the way back.
Well, Dan Miller had another one of those calls at Ford Field on Sunday, but unfortunately, it was in the Seattle's favor. That was a big play in the game. Twentyman and PJ Clark for the Twentyman and the Huddle podcast presented by Microsoft, and that was really the biggest statistic in this game, Peach. When you look at it, look, anytime in the NFL you go to the box score, you scroll down and you go to that little line that says turnovers, and when one team has 3, one team has 0, you can pretty much rest assured which team won the football game, and that was the big storyline in this one.
That was the big storyline. One of the turnovers did not hurt the Lions.
No, end of the half, kind of like
a
punt or whatever.
At least, but the
other two did.
The two were certainly costly.
Yeah, obviously, Trey Brown stepping in front of a Jared Goff pass, returning that in the fourth quarter for a 40-yard touchdown. That gave Seattle a 31-21 lead at the time. The first play of the second half for Detroit, a run play. Montgomery fumbles. Seattle jumps on it, is able to score there, and that's 14 points in what was eventually a one-score overtime loss where Seattle had the advantage, and that to me is the biggest storyline of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I give the Lions a lot of credit for coming down 10 and tying the game and getting to overtime down 10 and with 8 minutes left. I mean, that's a real comeback, and there were 2 good drives there at the end and a defensive stop to make that happen, but just came up a little bit short today.
Too many mistakes, and the going forward on the 45-yard line, the 4th and 2, you didn't get that. It's not officially a turnover, but Seattle grabs the ball, goes down, scores. And so I think all those were a combination of opportunity missed. And look, you can take it 2 ways. I mean, obviously you're disappointed with the loss, with how they won last week, who they beat, and where they did it. Obviously a lot of excitement coming home. But look, that's a good Seattle football team.
Yeah, they lost to a playoff team.
They lost to a playoff team, and they played better football. They deserved it more. And I thought Dan Campbell said it best after the game when he talked about Detroit getting a little bit of humble pie. And, sometimes you can learn more about yourself in a loss than you can a win. And this is what Dan Campbell had to say after the game.
Yeah, no, it didn't. That didn't scare me. It's just, we had our opportunities there again. Man, take the turnovers away. All of a sudden, man, we're in control of that game like we should be. But ultimately, you know what? They got the ball out. We didn't. And we put a tremendous amount of stress on our defense, when you do that. And we did. We had some, we had some really good opportunities that we just didn't capitalize from. And look, I know it stings, and those guys are disappointed. I'm disappointed. The staff is. But my gosh, man, this is good. We'll get a little humble pie here, and we got a real good opponent coming in next week. And, they run it as good, if not better, than those guys, and they have better weapons just all around. So,
yeah, Dan Campbell's talking about the Atlanta Falcons, who come into Ford Field next week. The 2-0 Atlanta Falcons.
Big win for them
after
today.
Coming back and beating Green Bay today. So, look, it's the NFL. It doesn't get any easier. But again, to Dan's point, not to say that Detroit was reading the clippings and walking around, beating their chest, because I didn't get that sense from being in Allen Park and talking to those guys and watching them practice. It just mistakes killed them, and now I think it gives them an opportunity to refocus, go back to work, grit, toughness, be an underdog mentality, right? Everything that kind of got them to this point, and I think that can be a good thing when it's all said and done.
No, I don't think anybody was out in front of their skis on this. I mean, Aaron Glenn made it very clear that this was a big deal to him, the way Seattle has played this coaching staff and played this new Lions core the last couple of years, and you saw it again today. Just, Seattle plays this team really, really well, and they knew that, and that was a point of emphasis coming in. And again, you saw the grit and resolve of the team to bounce back immediately after the pick six and come back and make it a game again and get the game to overtime. And the defense came up big when they needed to there at the end. But the turnovers are I think, the story, as you said.
And to me, another storyline here defensively, and I think Dan's right. The offense did put them in a couple tough situations. You can't put all 37 points there on them. But, a couple things, 383, total yards, 393, I think it was, for Seattle. But the big one that stood out to me, PJ, 1 sack in this game, 1 quarterback hit, and it was the last play of the regulation for the defense. They went an entire game without hitting Geno Smith, without sacking him. And this was a team, the big storyline out of Seattle all week was them not having the right or left tackle. You thought that was going to be advantage Detroit, that Aiden Hutchinson and James Houston and Charles Harris were going to have a huge game, and it was going to really change what Seattle had to do offensively. And that was not the case at all. I thought Seattle won the line of scrimmage, and I think defensively you've got to be a little disappointed in that if you're Aaron Glenn and those guys up front.
Yeah, and I mean, the only sack and quarterback hit, Geno was running around for, 8, 9 seconds.
It was a scramble drill,
Yeah.
and it was a nice play by Alex to identify who was covering the tight end at the point, see him tuck it, and just go get it. But 0 sacks, 0 hits for the defensive line, 1 tackle for loss in the game. That means you weren't playing on the other side of the line of scrimmage for 60 minutes.
No, it was a very impressive performance by a battered Seattle offensive line, and Will Dissly came in, one of the better blocking tight ends in the league. I think the Lions saw that today, and their backs did well. And Geno, it was pitch and catch, just took what the Lions gave him, a lot of short, a lot of quick routes, quick communication, nothing really too bad downfield, but it was just there was very little in his face. And the few times that the Lions got in his face, they forced incompletions and forced the Seahawks to kick a couple field goals there that they ended up missing, which proved big at the end of the game. But you would like to get a sack on the board, I think, especially with the talent on this defensive line.
On the flip side of it, you've got to like the way Jared Goff played.
Absolutely.
Obviously, the minus the one, pick 6, which he explained after the game. Dan Campbell thought, Dan Campbell usually waits to pass judgment until Monday and watching film, but he thought it was maybe on the route. Kudos to Jared Goff for stepping in there saying, no, that wasn't on Jahmyr Gibbs in the route. That was me.
I thought he ran a fine route. I was getting hit, or was about to get hit, and threw it before he broke. Guy made a good catch. Sometimes it doesn't go your way. I would have liked to throw it a little more inside and be able to give him a chance to catch it, and I didn't.
Yeah, but he made a heck of a lot of other great throws, finishing 28-35, 323 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 of those to Josh Reynolds, who's had 2 really nice games as the Lions have needed somebody to step up with Jamison Williams suspended. I thought Josh Reynolds has done a terrific job of doing that. Also had a touchdown to Khalif Raymond on a flea flicker. Offensive coordinator Ben Johnson reached into his bag of tricks a little bit there and had a nice one. And look, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6 catches, 102 yards, dealing with cramps in that game too. I thought Jahmyr Gibbs did some good things, especially in the pass game. Had the one drop that could have probably been a pretty big play that loomed pretty large, but David Montgomery had a pretty nice game before, he went out averaging 4.2 yards per carry with a touchdown. So, look, there's a lot of positives. Detroit had over 400 yards of offense. It was just the mistakes. I think when they watch the film, they're just going to drop their head and be like, it was there. If we don't throw the pick 6, if we don't have that fumble, probably are in a great position to win the game. So you've got to feel good about it offensively. I think defensively, you've got to marry your rush and cover a lot better, because you can't ask those guys in the back end to sit there and cover guys like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett for 3, 4, 5 seconds, which Geno was afforded on Sunday. So they've got to marry that up a little bit better, but I think offensively you feel pretty good about yourself.
Yeah, offensively, especially in the first half. I mean, not that Jared was bad in the second half, but the first half, firing on all cylinders. It was almost perfect. I think he only had 1 incompletion, and even the shot to Amon-Ra to end the half, which was the fumble that didn't cost the Lions anything, that was an absolute dart down the sideline. That was a huge chunk play, and Amon-Ra obviously just tried to make a play, get into the end zone as time expired, and the fumble chaos ensued. But the throw was great. Everything was there. I think you're really happy with how the offense played. The only thing, you want to get Gibbs going a little bit more on the ground. 7 carries for 17 yards is not, they tried to have him bounce outside, and Seattle has a great linebacking core that was ready for that. But I think Montgomery impressed again, and Josh Reynolds, man. Josh Reynolds is the professional wide receiver this team needed to step up in this time, because he is Mr. Dependable right now.
And that's what Jared said. Jared used the word trust in his post-game press conference.
I would hope so. They've played together forever.
They're going back to their time with the Rams, but he said, I trust him. Look, he's running great routes. He's making all the catches at the point of attack. 50-50 balls are his. He's always in the right spot. I know exactly where he is. And when you're a quarterback and you've got a receiver like that, you're going to look to that guy to make plays, especially in key situations and in the red zone. And Jared did that. And Reynolds had 4 catches for 80 yards, a couple of those crucial ones in week 1. Now with the 5 catches for 66 yards and a couple of touchdowns, they've needed somebody to step up. He's been the guy. You know what you're going to get from Amon-Ra St. every week, right? I mean, but you need that second guy to step up. And for 2 weeks in a row, it's been Josh Reynolds, and I think that's a great sign for Detroit.
It is, and I think Sam Laporta having 5 catches for 63 yards.
Yeah, good point by you.
And another perfect execution on a block to spring Montgomery for his rushing touchdown. And that is what we saw last week on the game-winning touchdown was Laporta coming across the line. Today, he just moved a defensive end, completely pushed him across the line of scrimmage, opened up that hole. And for a guy who came in with some blocking questions, who was Iowa's #1 receiving threat last year, you're seeing an answer on those, at least initially here, and the returns have been great.
And you got to like it, too. I think 11 targets in 2 games, 10 catches.
Yeah.
Very efficient. And I'll tell you what, you definitely earn the trust of your quarterback by doing that.
And that's a good safety valve as well. Just
100%.
Look for that guy on 3rd down, and he's developing every week. It's getting better and better.
Yeah, it was good to see Riley Patterson get in there, be perfect on the day. Obviously, some question marks, coming into the season with him. He was good, but look at it. It's just cleaning up some mistakes. It was some self-inflicted stuff. How about that crowd?
Crowd was electric.
It was such electric in here, and that's why I hate that they come away disappointed with a loss, because they brought it. I mean, they stayed till the end. They were loud. I mean, even I tweeted out a picture of my iPhone alerting me
you're
that
90
my
decibels.
That my
You're losing
noise
your
limit.
hearing.
I was going to lose my hearing if it kept going at that rate. And so, kudos to all the fans.
I think we'll have a couple more of those this year.
Yeah, and so hopefully they keep that up next week. A home game versus Atlanta. A tough opponent. But I guess maybe one other thing you take from Sunday is the fact that Minnesota obviously lost Thursday, Chicago lost Sunday, Green Bay lost Sunday. So after 2 weeks, the Detroit Lions and Green Bay Packers sit tied atop the NFC North at 1-1. So it was obviously a disappointing loss, but it wasn't one that hurt you. I mean, ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, you know what I'm saying? You're keeping pace with everyone else in the NFC.
And you
North.
lost to a good team. It's not, it happens, right? It's
They
hard.
weren't going 16-0.
No, it would be really hard to do that.
I just had a feeling they weren't going to go 16-0 this year.
Yeah, but you got, an Atlanta team, Coach Campbell said it, that has great weapons. I mean, you look at
that's a scary run.
You just
game.
look down that list, but again, the run defense was great last week. 3.3 yards per carry, 15 yards was the longest rush.
I'll take it.
And that was a scramble by Geno Smith. I mean, Kenneth Walker at one point had 14 total yards. His longest was 4, and then the rest of them all went for like 1 yard combined.
Yeah.
So you take that at least.
Sure.
Against 2 very, very good running backs next week. It's
I think
going to be interesting.
The biggest takeaway is obviously you've got to get after the quarterback a little bit more. They have got to pressure Ritter more
and that's
than they
not
did
a
Geno
that's
Smith.
not a veteran. That's a young guy that maybe you can rattle better than even just by getting in his face. The Brian Branch blitz down here at the end where Kirby almost picked off that 3rd down pass, which led to a field goal. But that was, I feel like, the most pressure the Lions got all day. And Geno, a veteran quarterback, almost got picked off on it. So you keep that up. Maybe you finish a couple of times next week and you see where that gets you.
So pressure Ritter, and then obviously limit the turnovers, the big mistakes. And I think if you do that, Everything else, you're just fine if you're the Detroit Lions. A little bit of humble pie, Dan Campbell said, for this one. I think that's good. They'll go back to Allen Park. They'll go to work. Hopefully they're healthy. Like quite a few injuries.
Yeah, it was a big.
Sounds like James Houston's probably the most severe of all of them. Dan said after the game could be out a little bit. We'll see what happens with Big V. He wasn't putting a whole lot of weight on that left leg. So, look, the
positives, though, if you had to lose guys, offensive line, you have Graham as a quality guard, and you have edge depth.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but look, the training room will be busy this week trying to get guys back, and we'll be back here. Next week we'll have obviously Twentyman in the Huddle coming out Thursday night. Typically, we'll get an Atlanta perspective. We'll get a player in to talk about this one. Look forward. We'll have key matchups. So we'll do all that Thursday night, and then we'll be back here in Detroit at Ford Field next Sunday. So big week with Atlanta as the Detroit Lions try to get back on the winning track after falling to Seattle 37-31 in overtime here at Ford Field on Sunday.